How to Prevent and Cure Seasickness. We have John, a veteran of the Canadian Navy. He was in the Navy for 12 years, and he got a lot of seasickness. So as a man who knows what he's talking about, I spoke with him earlier about that. So through the power and magic of editing, I'm now going to toss it over to John and Ray from a few days ago to talk about how to prevent and cure seasickness with a Navy veteran. I'm here with John, who was in the Canadian Navy for a dozen years, and we're going to be talking about seasickness and things you can do to prevent it, and things you can do to deal with it if and when you do have it. So, especially for those cruisers, first-time cruisers, even experienced cruisers, seasickness can come up for different people. So here's sort of a tip, an interview with a veteran of multiple sailings and a literal veteran who can hopefully answer some questions and give us some tips about how to prevent and cure seasickness.
Not only a veteran of the military, but also a veteran of seasickness, because I have been seasick myself countless times with the frequency that the Navy goes out. Eventually, 90% of people get seasick once you get into rough enough weather. It doesn't take that much weather to get me sick. I have kind of a weak tolerance for it, but there are things that you can do. So the first thing is to lay down. If you lay down, it generally fixes your seasickness. It's not a permanent solution by any means, because when you sit back up or you go walking about, you're still going to feel seasickness, but it is like an immediate solution. And seasickness is something that makes you want to lay down, it makes you want to sleep, it exhausts your system. So one piece of advice I have to give is always be drinking water or some sort of fluid to keep your fluids in, because if you do get seasick, you will be throwing up, and you'll be throwing up frequently. And it's not going to get better when you do. Because that's another big tip about seasickness is if you can not throw up, do that. Because, I mean, sometimes it's going to be uncontrollable, clearly. Everybody's throwing up uncontrollably. It happens. But usually when you throw up, you start to feel better, right? Like if you get the flu and you throw up, you're like, oh, okay, I feel a bit better after that.
Or a migraine.
Or a
as
migraine,
well.
yeah.
That can be a big step forward in your recovery process.
Seasickness,
or relieving pressure.
Seasickness works exactly the opposite. Throwing up will make you feel worse. Wow. So do make sure to keep your fluids up because fluid loss and dehydration is a big cause of how people even further sick when they're seasick. So
for that fluid thing, alcohol, Red Bull, are either of those or both of those recommended, or should you avoid both?
Avoid both. Water. Straight water. It's the best. It's the best thing to hydrate your whole system. Don't have Gatorade, don't have Powerade, don't have any kind of sport drink. So
it's not about
electrolytes.
Water.
It's not about electrolytes. I mean, there might be a little bit there. Maybe you have a sip of Gatorade, whatever. Because, I mean, water starts to taste bad after a while. If you can eat, because you won't feel like eating, I guarantee your appetite will suddenly vanish. There were days on the ship where I just didn't eat because I was seasick. If you can get a couple crackers down, some plain, dry toast, maybe a bit of butter on it, maybe some rice, all these things will help kind of stabilize your system. But it won't help fix your seasickness. It'll just give you a bit more calories, let your body kind of work itself.
Thinking about beverages, also about things that are available on a cruise ship, what about things like ginger ale, Sprite, hot chocolate, lemonade, iced tea? Are any of those, what would you say, good or bad?
I would say things with caffeine are generally things that don't hydrate you too well.
Yeah, it's a diuretic.
So exactly. So you want to avoid those things. Ginger ale, I don't think has any caffeine in it, and it might help settle your stomach a little. I would say if you're going to do that, or if you're going to drink any carbonated beverage, drink it flat. Leave it open and drink it flat.
Okay. I think Mike recommends that as well. He also recommends the lying down thing.
Because, I mean, if you start getting gas generated in your stomach, there's already going to be gas generating in your stomach, so you're going to be burping quite a bit. So that's normal. Putting in carbonated beverages is only going to make you burp more, and it's only going to distend your stomach out more, which is only going to make you feel worse and more nauseated. Now, there's two types of people. There's people that will feel seasickness regardless, and there's people that feel seasickness when they can't see the horizon. So if you're of the first group, there's not much you're going to be able to do. We'll get to what you can do later. But for the people that helps to see the horizon, go outside, hang out on an upper deck, or be at a place where you can see the horizon and get some fresh air. A lot of people, that will help their seasickness. Sometimes cure it. If they go back down below, maybe they don't feel as bad, and it might come back later. And if you just keep looking at the horizon, so you have a point of reference to so your system understands what's happening, then that can help a lot of people. Now, for those of you who don't, and I'm one of those people who that doesn't work for, part one is taking Bonhomie. Bonhomie is an over-the-counter medication you can buy at just about any drugstore around. It's meant for motion sickness. It's meant so you start taking it before you feel motion sick, and it helps you through the motion sickness. And it's very light. There's not a lot, if any, side effects. So it's good to take.
And that works for you.
And that does not work for me.
Okay. Let me ask you this: if it's somebody's first time sailing, and they don't yet know what kind of seasickness, if any, they'll feel, would you recommend them taking that as a preventative measure, or do you think that they should wait to see if it's necessary?
I would say that's a tough question, because if you're not going to get seasickness, it's a waste of money. But if you are going to get seasickness and that's going to help it, then it's good to do it as a preventative measure. So if I'm looking at this at the long run, I would say start with Bonhomie, even if you've never been to sea and you think you might be seasick, or you just don't want to even have the chance of getting seasick, start taking the Bonhomie. If you get seasick even on the Bonhomie, there's other steps you can take later, and we're going to go over those as well.
Excellent.
Okay. Step two, a lot of people get Gravol, and they start popping Gravol. Gravol is a very temporary solution. A solution that lasts maybe 6, 7, 8 hours.
Well, and I think it also has a little bit more side effects. I've actually, I have heard of people who have taken Gravol and that actually caused vomiting.
That's true. And that's the same thing with me. If I take Gravol orally, it does not sit well in my stomach, and it just makes me even more nauseous. On the ship, if the sea state is really heavy and that bad, where I haven't been taking anything so far, because sometimes it creeps up on you. Sometimes you'll wake up one morning and the ship will just be heaving. I've gone to the dock and had a shot of Gravol where they just inject it straight into you. That's fine.
Interesting.
And if that is an option for you, and I don't even know if you can get Gravol auto-injectors. I don't know if they have those on the cruise ships for people at the medical place.
I don't know, but I do know that most of the services at the medical bay, the sick bay, they charge you for. And my understanding is it can be hefty.
So you may want to avoid that.
Yeah.
So the next step after that, and this is really the big final step, is a Scopolamine patch. Now, what it is it's a small patch, only about this big, very small, and you put it just in behind your ear on one side. You get 2 patches. Each patch lasts 3 days.
3 days?
3 days, yeah. So you put it on. It's a sticky substance. And you have to wash your hands thoroughly afterwards, because if you get that substance into your eye, it will dilate your pupils, so they'll be huge.
Oh.
Yes. So you want to avoid that, and it does say that in the instructions, but it will take away your feelings of nausea. It takes a little while to take effect, but it's a little patch you put there, and it works fine. You do this side for 3 days, you do this side for 3 days, then you have to have a day break in between doses.
Okay, so you can do one on each back to back, but before you go back to the original site, you put the first one, you have to have a day break.
At least a day break between basically double dosing and then double dosing.
Do some of the benefits possibly last through that day? Is there sort of a build-up?
Through most of the day.
Okay.
Through most of the day. There are going to be hours where you are not going to feel well during that day break. So you can mitigate that by lying down.
Right.
The thing with the Scopolamine patch... and you can see one. Mark Rober, who's another YouTuber, just did a video about for Shark Week about can sharks really smell blood. There'll be a link in the description, and you can see that when he boards the ship, on the back of his ear, there's a small kind of skin-colored round patch, and that's a Scopolamine patch, because clearly he does get seasick and probably gets seasick pretty bad.
So that can be used. Should that be used preventatively or as treating symptoms?
If you both. Okay. If you know that the seas are going to be bad, then you can put it on, say, the night before.
Okay.
And you can wake up the next morning. Now, it does have a few side effects. The side effects that I experienced, dry mouth.
Okay.
Super cottony mouth. Carry a bottle of water with you, because it is a little bit dehydrating. You won't be dehydrated because you're throwing up all the time. It just naturally dehydrates your mouth.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you constantly want to be wetting your whistle. It also gives you kind of almost a sensation of surrealism.
Oh, really?
Yes, where you kind of feel a little weird, because you're feeling all these feelings inside you of things moving around and the motion, and you're not getting the normal nausea
that would go along with that.
So your body thinks that's a little weird, and your mind thinks it's a bit weird. So you might be a little out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I was in the Navy, and I've taken scopolamine before,
mm-hmm.
many times,
mm-hmm.
and I'm able to fully function, fully work, do my job in a combat scenario.
Right.
Where
so it doesn't impair judgment. It doesn't make you dizzy. Doesn't make you sleepy. Okay.
For some people, it might make them dizzy.
Okay.
They might have a bit of unease or maybe a bit of dizziness. Not like a crazy spinning bout of dizziness,
right?
But just a general sense of motion.
Okay.
People that suffer from vertigo, I think it's not recommended.
Okay.
Because I think that enhances a vertigo sensation. And you might find it different. The Cottonmouth effect might not affect you. You might not get that same sense of surrealism that I had.
And it's a good point to mention that we are not doctors. We're just speaking from our personal experiences. Mm-hmm. Your mileage may vary, and these are just our thoughts. These aren't formal recommendations of any kind. Also, for the Cottonmouth thing, if you do have a bottle, you can take it up to Lido, and there are many places where you can refill water. If you are a VIFP member of level red or above, you should be getting a free 1 or 1.5 liter bottle in your room of water. And so after you've consumed that, you can take it up to Lido and refill it. So that could be an option to address that dry mouth.
And always check with your doctor if you're taking any medications for any kind of medication conflict with any of the things that we've mentioned here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking for non-medical solutions as
mm-hmm.
well, some of the things that I've heard from cruise directors, and I've even mentioned here on this channel before, I do have a video, I'll put a link to it in the description and an info card, where I actually balanced a penny on one of the Carnival Fantasy class ships when it was going at its top speed, and it was able to stay up on its side. So, I mean, the ships can be generally really stable. They have stabilizing things that come out from the side underneath the water that you won't see that help the ship stay stable. So unless you're in rough seas, I find that they're very, very stable. And like I said, at full speed, I could balance a penny on its end. But in that video, I also talk about the things that cruise directors have said over the years about ways of addressing it without medication. One thing that they recommend is having a green apple. They say helps calm the stomach. Would you recommend that?
I think I could agree with that. Yeah. I mean, remember, everything here may or may not work for you personally.
Yeah, everyone's different.
If a green apple works for you, fantastic. Eat all the green apples. Eat tons of green apples, left, right, center.
Yeah.
Just make sure you drink water because green apples do have a tendency to suck moisture from your mouth.
And you can often find green apples at the buffet on Lido. And so sometimes they're just like little baskets or whatever inside the buffet that will have a bunch of apples on them. And so you can probably just go and grab them. One thing I have noticed is that if there is rough seas, those apples disappear quickly. So if you're someone who's prone to it and you want to have that additional option, grabbing an apple early in your cruise and just keeping it in your cabin. If you are on a class of vessel that has a fridge, you could put it in the fridge. But that's something that I know that Mike and Sam sometimes do is they'll grab some of the fruit early in the cruise and then they'll have it in the cabin in case they need it.
Smart. One other thing I want to mention is what if you're one of the people that don't want to do anything medical at all?
Yeah.
You don't want to eat green apples till you want to power through it.
Mm-hmm.
One, you're a hero. I would never do that, but it's terrible. So the one piece of advice I can give, and when I started to get in rough seas when I was in the Navy, is I would keep a garbage bag in my pocket. A plastic garbage bag, fold it up, because if I do get seasick,
mm-hmm.
I want someplace, and I don't want to have to fight for a bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to fight for a garbage can, and I don't want to have to fight for the edge of the ship so I can throw above it, which is a terrible thing to do when you thrown up off the edge of the ship. Oh, it gets bad. It gets really bad.
And as somebody who frequently likes to have a balcony on a cruise ship, please don't do that.
Right.
They do in the safety briefing talk about how you're not supposed to throw things overboard except for a limited list of things that are allowed by maritime law. They don't tell you what's on that list. I'm not sure vomit qualifies in terms of cruise ships anyways. So yeah, that's a good idea. And also, I mean, if you do have to throw up and you don't have that preparation, there's no bathroom, there's no garbage, you don't have a bag, generally speaking, near the railings, there is a sort of a little divot or whatever that goes the whole length of the ship. That's where the rainwater will go. So maybe do that instead of going overboard. Again, as somebody who really likes balconies and might be out on a balcony below you, that would be my request. Another thing that we've heard cruise directors suggest over the years is to have a peanut butter and jam sandwich, which is something that you can get through room service, or I believe at the MDR if you order off the kids menu, which adults are allowed to do. You just have to ask. But the reasoning behind that is that it tastes the same going in both directions. I'm not sure if it actually has a calming effect. Have you tried that?
I think the bread probably would.
Okay, so like absorb acid and liquid?
The peanuts would also give you some protein.
Oh, okay,
so that might have a balancing effect. Whether it tastes good going down, coming up, I don't have experience with that. I can tell you, hamburger does.
So if you're at Guy's Burgers,
have a burger. It's gonna be fantastic. The other thing to keep in mind is if you are going to be throwing up, don't eat things that clump together. So if you're going to have crackers, don't have just crackers. Have crackers, some water, and like a piece of fruit or something like that.
Okay.
Because crackers will clump together, and if you have to throw up one giant clump of cracker, it's going to be a terrible experience for you.
You want something that's kind of broken up.
You want something that's
so it's
broken up.
Easier movement as a result.
The other thing I want to mention about it is if you are one who throws up a lot, and this is going to start to get biological here, but you're going to notice that you're starting to throw up bright neon green liquid.
Is that bile?
Yeah, that's some of your stomach acid. So don't be afraid of that. If you do throw up frequently, you may see some pink blood in your throw up. That's going to be okay. You're not going to be, too hurt because of that. You may throw up some clear mucousy stuff, which is a bit of your stomach lining, which regenerates very, very quickly. So you don't have to worry about that.
That's a weight off.
If you throw up and there's bright red blood, like bright red blood, seek medical attention immediately.
Okay.
Anytime you have bright red blood coming from wherever, seek medical attention immediately.
Again, this is casual advice. We're not medical professionals.
That's
we make no guarantees or assumptions. So that's good. And so it's interesting because one of the things that sometimes we hear from people is, should you have an interior cabin or should you have like an ocean view or balcony? And I think seasickness can factor into that because, again, if seeing the horizon can help you, and you might think that being in an interior cabin where you can't see the horizon, you might end up making things worse. But for certain types, it might help.
That's right. If you're one of the types that can see the horizon, get an outside route.
If that helps you.
If that helps you. If that's not going to help you, it doesn't matter.
Save the money, be on the interior.
You'll be able to use that money to buy some Bonhomie or Scopolamine. Sure,
absolutely. So, anyways, hopefully that's helpful to you. Was there anything that you wanted to add?
I don't know. I just had a story about me being seasick once.
Oh, story time. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was in the Navy and we were doing exercises and seas were starting to get rough and I was starting to not feel good. And we were doing a big battle scenario.
Nothing classified now.
Nothing classified, but fully kitted out. And we had what's called flash gear, which is you see that a lot with firefighters, where they have the hood that kind of and their mask is over top of it. We didn't have masks, of course, but it's to prevent you from, if fire flashes over you, it prevents that flash over. So I call it flash gear. So I got this up, and it's around my nose and around my mouth. So already that's going to be great. And I'm wearing a headset. I got the mic right there, and I'm talking to other ships and things like that. And we're doing battle exercises, so I'm on the microphone talking very, very fast, and I'm starting to feel really nauseous, and it's getting really bad. And I have my garbage bag out and hooked onto my console, ready to go because I know it's going to come eventually. But I was hoping to get through the whole battle exercise. But I didn't. And there was one point where I'm like, talk, standby one. Mic goes up. Flash gear comes down. Barf, 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 barf. Bag gets hooked back on. Flash mask goes back up. Mic comes down. Continue talking. Wow. And my supervisor behind me was like, that's the most badass thing I've ever seen in my life. So I got some points for that.
Nice.
And then afterwards I got to go down to my rack to lay down because I was off shift, and thank God, because I needed to sleep and I needed to lay down, which made me feel, of course, better.
All right, good points, both of you. Well covered. A little self-serving of me to say, I suppose. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It helps us unlock additional functionality. Give our videos a little thumbs up so more people can see them, and comment because we love to engage with you guys. We've learned so much from the comments on YouTube videos. It's amazing.